I would like to introduce the first of our speakers, Dr. Tom Fleischner. Tom, are you ready?
Yes. Okay, well, thank you so much, C, and thank you everybody for being here with us today. It's a tremendous honor to be part of this UN Science Summit. I'm going to start here by first sharing two assumptions that I'm operating from, and then share my primary point right up front. So first assumption is that the Earth is a gift, not just a problem. When we face challenges daily, it's really easy for us to forget that the Earth is not just a set of problems to be solved, and too often we can forget the miraculous nature of existence on this living planet. I think it's part of the job of naturalists to remind us of that. Following from that is my second assumption is that loving the world is as important as grieving for it. Now, love is something that we, especially at a scientific symposium, are unaccustomed to and often uncomfortable with discussing. But my central idea here this morning is that loving the world is actually a prerequisite for any possible sustainability strategy we might devise. In fact, I would challenge us to consider, is there any possible way to be successful in sustainability without creating a broad-based sense of passion and caring for the world? I believe that it is absolutely essential. And so what fosters that kind of passion? Well, not surprisingly, the answer is natural history. And the relationships go something like this, that the practice of natural history engenders a love and passion for the world, and then emerging from that is a caring for the world. And then once people realize the ideas inherent in sustainability challenges, the love and the caring and understanding from natural history can build a foundation of support and receptivity for the need for sustainability. So what is natural history? C's already covered this nicely. As he says, there's many, many different definitions. Here's the right answer. There's my own definition, but basically a practice of intentional, focused attentiveness and receptivity. Or simply put, you could say that natural history is the practice of paying careful attention to the world in which we live. Excuse me, paying attention to such things as similarities and differences, to commonness and rarity, to patterns of diversity, to movement, to change. And along the way, I've come to define natural history also as the practice of falling in love with the world. I want to highlight the idea that natural history is a practice, it's a doing, or as we might say, natural history is a verb. It's not just the noun of the facts that we come up with or the specimens that we file away, but it's the actual practice of attentiveness and paying attention that I think makes the biggest difference. I also want to highlight the fact that we as a species literally evolved to practice natural history when we consider it in this sense of attentiveness. In fact, it's been suggested that the very nature of human psyche or mind is as a result of natural history practice, of the discerning predator from prey, poison from food, and so on. And if anyone doubts that we are all born to practice natural history, I would encourage us to watch any small child anywhere in the world and check out their curiosity, their inquisitiveness, their boldness, and their determination in coming to interact and understand the world. So in this sense, it's fair to say that natural history is the oldest continuous human endeavor. In fact, there have never been people without natural history. Our history and natural history's history are intertwined completely. And yet, there has never been a time, or there's never in the history of our species, when so few people practice natural history, as our attention has been drawn to many other places than the world around us, often small screens. So our fields of view have shrunk, and I believe it's not coincidental that so many human crises have skyrocketed during this period. So how does natural history, in this sense of attentiveness, help us achieve sustainability? Well, first and most obviously, and C covered this very nicely, is that natural history is the process by which we gather information and insight about the world in which we live. And in this regard, natural history helps us answer three key ecological questions: who, where, and when. And in so doing, it helps us find areas of high diversity, for example, or locations of rare species, patterns of migration, and so forth. And so in this way, the practice of natural history and the information and insight gathering directly supports many UN Sustainable Development Goals for example, these four, the nature of conserving aquatic life, terrestrial life, developing sustainable development, sustainable cities and climate action, helping us understand the context for all of these. But more importantly today, I want to talk about, or more specifically what I want to talk about today, is the way that natural history actually impacts our emotional relationship with the world beyond the information itself. And first of all, we can talk about how this affects us in individual ways, because increasingly we have understanding, thanks to psychologists and medical scientists, of the healing value of natural history practice or attentiveness to nature. There's a burgeoning peer-reviewed literature showing the beneficial health effects of natural history, or of immersion in nature, and such as reducing depression, anxiety, strengthening immune systems, and so much more. And in this way, the healing value of natural history very directly supports the UN goal of fostering good health and well-being around the world. But also thinking more collectively and strategically about supporting sustainability is another insight from psychologists, which is that people are motivated by feelings more than facts oftentimes. And oftentimes we scientists think that piling on more facts will make the world understand ecological crises, and that oftentimes does not turn out to be the case. We humans understand the world through stories. We are a storytelling and a story listening species. But oftentimes, important ecological stories are not always told in the most compelling ways, or in the ways that are accessible to the general public around the world. Whereas natural history reanimates the world by adding sensory details and living vibrancy and making real what is at stake when we talk about sustainability. So compelling ecological stories are usually rooted in natural history in one form or another. Natural history stories serve us, and they connect us both with the biodiversity in which we live and also with one another by deepening our understanding and fostering compassion. This is especially easy and obvious when we're looking at charismatic megafauna, these large, spectacular animals that live around the world that we can be fascinated by so inherently and easily, but also natural history stories of relationship, stories of sharing space, stories of adaptation, of perseverance, stories of fitting in, and stories sometimes of standing out, stories of successful strategies for living, and stories sometimes based on questions we do not yet know how to ask. Natural history also promotes humility, that all too rare human trait, which I believe is absolutely essential for sustainability. And humility is especially easy to grasp or obvious when walking near a grizzly bear, or encountering one of the fiercest predators on Earth, or one of the longest, but also by simply the reminder that the Earth was here long before us and will persist long after, or simply by watching a bird visit the ledge outside our urban apartment, or new flowers growing in sidewalk cracks. So I would suggest that any conservation issue or sustainability challenge involves interaction between these three intersecting realms of science, values, and policy. Natural history, as we've already said, informs the science so that we have the best possible understanding of what is really going on and what is really at stake. And natural history inspires value systems that respect the rest of life and that support taking action towards sustainability. I've already mentioned these 5 UN Sustainable Development Goals as being particularly supported by the practice of natural history, but I would suggest that all 17 of them are in fact supported by the practice of natural history because of the way, in a broad-based way, natural history creates an ethos of caring and a network of support for the goals of sustainability. So in summary, I would suggest that natural history fosters the development of caring, knowledgeable, healthy citizens who are concerned with sustainability and capable of contributing to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tom. Much appreciated.